My name is Emily, and I'm 29 years old. I recently divorced my husband, Jake, 31, over false accusations of cheating. I always suspected his mother, Karen, 55 and was involved, but I had no proof until now. Jake and I grew up in Millbrook, a small town known for its struggling economy and high unemployment rates. We lived in the same neighborhood, properly nicknamed the Pits by locals. It wasn't the best area. Lots of low-income families struggling to make ends meet. My parents moved us there when I was 12 after they both lost their jobs in the city. Dad was a factory worker, and Mom was a receptionist at a law firm. They tried to shield us from the reality of our situation, but even as a kid, I could sense their stress and worry. Jake had lived in the Pits his whole life with his grandparents, Bill and Martha. His mom, Karen, was hardly ever around due to her issues with substance abuse. I remember the first time I saw Karen. She stumbled into Bill and Martha's yard during a neighborhood barbecue, slurring her words and barely able to stand. Jake, who was 14 at the time, calmly led her inside, his face a mask of practiced indifference. It broke my heart to see how used to this he was. Despite the tough circumstances, Jake was incredibly smart and hardworking. He was a few years ahead of me in school and often helped me and my younger sister Lily with our homework. In return, I'd help him with chores around his grandparents' house. Bill had a bad back from years of construction work, and Martha suffered from arthritis, so Jake took on a lot of responsibility at a young age. I remember one particular day when Jake was teaching me algebra. We were sitting on his front porch, the summer heat making the pages of our textbook stick together. Frustrated with a particularly difficult problem, I threw my pencil down and declared I was too stupid for math. Jake looked at me seriously and said, "Emily, you're not stupid. You just haven't figured it out yet. And that's okay because I'll help you until you do." That moment stuck with me. It was the first time someone outside my family had shown such faith in me. As we grew older, our friendship deepened. We'd spend hours talking about our dreams and fears. Jake wanted to start his own business someday, to prove to everyone in the Pits that it was possible to make it out. I dreamed of becoming a teacher, inspired by the patience Jake had shown me. When Jake graduated high school, he got a scholarship to a good college in the city. His grandparents scraped together what they could to help with expenses, selling their old car and taking on extra shifts at their jobs. Karen, unsurprisingly, didn't contribute at all. She didn't even show up to his graduation. I remember holding Jake's hand as he watched other parents congratulating their kids, his jaw clenched tightly. Jake and I tried to maintain a long-distance relationship when he left for college. We'd talk on the phone every night at first, sharing stories about our days. But over time, the calls became less frequent. Jake was busy with his studies and part-time job, and I was focused on finishing high school and helping my parents, who were still struggling financially. Then, one day, I got a text from Jake. It was brief and to the point. He thought it was best if we broke up. He said the distance was too hard and he needed to focus on his future. I was devastated. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. For weeks, I cried myself to sleep, feeling like I'd lost not just my boyfriend, but my best friend. Years passed, and I didn't hear much from Jake. I focused on my studies, got into a decent college in our state, and started working towards my teaching degree. I dated a few guys, but nothing serious. A part of me always compared them to Jake, and they always fell short. Then, out of the blue, I saw Jake's name on the guest list for a talk at my college. He had become a successful entrepreneur, and I was assigned to moderate the session. When I saw him walk into the auditorium, my heart skipped a beat. He looked different, more polished, confident. But when he smiled at me, I saw the same Jake I'd known all those years ago. After the talk, we went for coffee to catch up. Jake told me about his journey, how he'd worked hard, started his own tech company, and even reconnected with his mom. Apparently, Karen had married a wealthy man named Robert who adopted Jake and invested in his company. I was happy for Jake, but a part of me felt the twinge of jealousy. He had achieved his dream of making it out of the Pits, while I was still struggling to finish my degree and help my parents make ends meet. One thing led to another, and Jake offered me a job at his company. At first, I hesitated, thinking it might be awkward, but he insisted. Over the next few months, we grew close again. Jake proposed, saying he regretted breaking up with me years ago. I was overwhelmed with emotion and said yes. That's when the trouble started. Karen wasn't pleased about our engagement. She arranged a lunch for us to get to know each other, but it was a disaster. She was sweet in front of Jake, but made nasty comments when we were alone, calling my family and me gold diggers. I told Jake about it, but he brushed it off, asking me to ignore her behavior. Our relationship became strained because of Karen's constant interference. She was always in Jake's ear, filling it with lies about me and my family. Despite the ups and downs, Jake and I eloped and got married. Karen put on a happy face at the reception, but I could tell she was seething inside. Things were okay for a while until my sister Lily asked for some seed money for her startup. a small bakery she wanted to open in our hometown. Jake generously offered to invest, no questions asked. I was touched by his gesture, remembering how much my family had struggled when we were younger. Unfortunately, Lily's business struggled. The economy in our hometown was still bad, and people didn't have extra money for fancy baked goods. Jake started to worry about his investment. He became distant and irritable at home. We fought over small things, and the tension kept building. The breaking point came when Jake forgot our first wedding anniversary. I was hurt and decided to stay with my parents for a while. We had already planned a small gathering for our families after our anniversary, so we decided to go ahead with it and act like the perfect hosts. The day before the party, I got a shocking call from Karen. She told me to pack my bags because she had found the perfect girl for her son. I hung up on her and went home to talk to Jake about his mother's behavior. But when I arrived, Jake was drunk and unresponsive. The next day at the gathering, the tension between Jake and me was palpable. Even my distant cousins noticed something was off. I tried to talk to Jake, but he brushed me off. Later, he came back with an envelope, saying it contained proof of me cheating on him. I was stunned. Inside the envelope were divorce papers and some inappropriate pictures of me with another man. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I tried to explain to Jake that the pictures were fake, but he wouldn't listen. He told me to leave, saying he should have listened to his mother and never married into a family of gold diggers. Heartbroken and confused, I went back to my parents' house. Lily looked at the pictures and immediately pointed out that they were clearly doctored. We decided to confront Jake the next day, but before we could, he showed up at our door. I thought maybe he had realized something was off about the pictures. Instead, he demanded that I sign the divorce papers immediately. When I refused and tried to explain that the photos were fake, he threatened to file fraud charges against Lily for the failed business investment. I was devastated. The man I loved and thought I knew was threatening my family. With a heavy heart, I signed the papers. It was only after the divorce that I discovered I was 2 months pregnant. Now, 6 months later, I've given birth to a beautiful baby girl named Sophie. Jake has been supportive from afar, setting up a trust fund for her and agreeing to shared custody. But I can't help feeling that there is more to this story than meets the eye. I'm determined to uncover the truth. Not just for my sake, but for Sophie's future. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind few weeks since my last post. I can't believe how much has happened, and I'm still trying to process it all. About a month ago, I received an email that changed everything. It was from Karen, Jake's mother, but it wasn't meant for me. She had accidentally included my email address in a message intended for a woman named Melissa, who she was trying to set Jake up with. The email detailed Karen's plan to get all of Jake's money, with instructions on how Melissa should manipulate him. I was shocked. This was the proof I needed to show that Karen had been behind. Everything from the start. My hands shook as I read through the email multiple times, each read filling me with a mix of vindication and anger. I immediately tried to contact Jake, but he didn't answer my calls. So I forwarded the email to him, hoping he would finally see the truth. Days passed, and I heard nothing. I assumed Jake had read the email and was dealing with the fallout on his own. I focused on taking care of Sophie and tried not to dwell on it. But it was hard. Every time I looked at our daughter, I saw Jake in her features, and my heart ached for what could have been. Then, on a rainy Tuesday evening, Jake showed up at my door. He looked terrible. His clothes were rumpled, his hair a mess, and he had dark circles under his eyes. For a moment, I was reminded of how his mother used to look when she showed up at his grandparents' house. I invited him in, more out of habit than anything else, and that's when he dropped a bombshell. Jake confessed that he had never received my email. It had gone to his spam folder. He was here because he had discovered the truth on his own. While helping his mother move some things at her house, he had stumbled upon a locked box. Curiosity got the better of him, and he picked the lock, a skill he'd learned in our misspent youth in the pits. Inside, he found the original photos of me, the ones that had been doctored to make it look like I was cheating. He broke down as he told me how he had taken the photos to a professional, who confirmed they were manipulated. Jake realized then that his mother had orchestrated the whole thing to break us up. As he spoke, I could see the weight of his guilt crushing him. He looked older, more worn than I'd ever seen him. I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I was relieved that Jake finally knew the truth. On the other, I was angry that it had taken him this long to believe me. I told him about the email I had forwarded, and he checked his spam folder right there in front of me. The color drained from his face as he read it. We spent hours talking that night. Jake apologized profusely for not believing me, for letting his mother come between us, for threatening my sister. He told me he had broken off his engagement to Melissa. He had never really wanted to marry her anyway. It had all been his mother's idea. As Jake spoke, memories flooded back. I remembered the day he'd taught me algebra on his porch, the nights we'd spent dreaming of a better future, the moment he'd proposed. But I also remembered the pain of our breakup, the humiliation of being accused of cheating, the fear when he threatened my family. I listened to everything Jake had to say, but I made it clear that his apology didn't magically fix everything. The trust between us was broken, and it would take more than words to repair it. Jake nodded, understanding in his eyes. He told me he was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. Before he left, Jake asked if there was any chance for us to reconcile. I told him I needed time to think. The wounds were still fresh, and I had Sophie to consider now. Jake respected my decision and left, but not before asking if he could see Sophie. I agreed, and watching him hold our daughter for the first time in months brought tears to my eyes. After Jake left, I called Lily to fill her in on everything that had happened. She was furious on my behalf, but also relieved that the truth had finally come out. We spent a long time discussing what I should do next. Lily, always the protective sister, warned me against rushing back into a relationship with Jake. But she also reminded me of how happy we had been before Karen's interference. I'm still not sure what the future holds for Jake and me. Part of me wants to give him another chance. We have a long history together, and he is Sophie's father. But another part of me is scared of being hurt again. Can I ever truly trust him after what happened? For now, I'm focusing on being the best mother I can be to Sophie. Jake and I have agreed to be civil for her sake, and we're working on a co-parenting schedule that works for both of us. It's strange navigating this new dynamic with Jake. Sometimes when he comes to pick up Sophie, I catch glimpses of the boy I fell in love with all those years ago. But then I remember everything that's happened, and I feel the walls I've built around my heart strengthening. As for Karen, Jake told me he's cut off all contact with her. He's in the process of undoing the financial entanglements she had manipulated him into. It's a messy situation, and I'm glad I'm not directly involved in it. But I can't help wondering about Karen's motivations. Was it really just about money? Or was there something deeper? Some twisted need for control over her son's life? I'm taking things one day at a time. My priority is creating a stable, loving environment for Sophie. Whatever happens between Jake and me, I want her to know that both her parents love her unconditionally. I'll update again when I have more news. For now, I'm trying to focus on the positive changes in my life. I've started a new job at a local school, fulfilling my old dream of becoming a teacher. It's challenging, especially with a baby, but it's also incredibly rewarding. And every day when I look into Sophie's eyes, I'm reminded of the strength I've found through all of this. Thank you all for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been a few months since my last update, and a lot has changed. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. Jake and I have been slowly rebuilding our relationship, not as a couple, but as co-parents. We've been attending counseling sessions together to work through our issues and learn how to communicate better for the sake of Sophie. It's been challenging, but I can see the progress we're making. In our sessions, we've delved into our past, both the good and the bad. We've talked about our childhood in the pits, how it shaped us and our expectations of relationships. Jake opened up about his feelings of abandonment from his mother and how that affected his ability to trust. I shared my insecurities about not being good enough for Jake after he became successful. It's been painful at times, but also cathartic. The biggest development, however, involves Karen. Jake decided to press charges against her for fraud and harassment. He had gathered enough evidence, including the doctored photos and the email she sent about her plans to steal his money. It wasn't an easy decision for Jake. Despite everything, Karen was still his mother. I remember the night he made the decision. We were sitting on my porch after he had dropped Sophie off, reminiscent of our teenage years. Jake looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and sadness, and said, "I have to do this. Not just for us, but for Sophie. I don't want her growing up thinking this kind of behavior is okay." When Karen was confronted with the charges, she didn't react the way we expected. Instead of denying everything or trying to manipulate the situation, she broke down completely. It turns out that she's been struggling with severe mental health issues for years, exacerbated by her substance abuse problems. Jake's stepfather, Robert, who had been in the dark about most of Karen's schemes, was devastated. He's filed for divorce, but has agreed to help pay for Karen's treatment at a specialized facility. It's a complicated situation, and I have mixed feelings about it all. On one hand, I'm angry at Karen for everything she put me through. The false accusations, the manipulation, the pain she caused our family. But on the other hand, I can't help but feel a twinge of pity for her. Mental illness is a serious issue, and it's clear that she needs help. I remember Karen from my childhood, a woman who was more often absent than present in her son's life. I wonder now if her issues stem from that time, or even earlier. Jake is struggling with his own conflicting emotions. He's angry and hurt by his mother's actions, but he also feels guilty for not recognizing her issues sooner. He's been seeing a therapist to work through his feelings, which I think is a positive step. Sometimes after his sessions, he'll call me and we'll talk for hours. It reminds me of our late-night conversations when we were younger, dreaming of a better future. As for me, I'm focusing on moving forward. I've started a new job that I love, teaching at a local elementary school. It's challenging, especially balancing work with caring for Sophie, but it's incredibly rewarding. I see a bit of myself in some of my students, especially those from struggling families. I try to be for them what Jake was for me all those years ago, a source of encouragement and support. I'm also enjoying watching Sophie grow and develop her own personality. She's the light of my life, and seeing Jake interact with her always brings a smile to my face, despite our complicated history. Sophie has Jake's eyes and my smile, and sometimes when I look at her, I'm struck by how much she represents the best of both of us. Jake and I have had some long, honest conversations about our past and our future. We both acknowledge that we still have feelings for each other, but we're not rushing into anything. We're taking it slow, focusing on being good parents and healing from the trauma we've been through. Last week, Jake suggested we take Sophie to the park together. As we watched her toddle around the playground, Jake turned to me and said, "I'm sorry for everything, Emily. I should have trusted you. I should have been stronger." I didn't say anything, just squeezed his hand. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I'm cautiously optimistic. If nothing else, this whole ordeal has taught me the importance of trust, communication, and standing up for myself. I'm not the same person I was when this all started, and in many ways, I'm stronger for it. Lily's bakery is slowly starting to pick up. Jake has been helping her with the business side of things, partly out of guilt for threatening her before, and partly because I think he genuinely wants to help. It's nice to see them getting along, a small piece of normalcy in our complicated situation. As for Karen, she's still in treatment. Jake visits her occasionally, always coming back looking drained, but a little more at peace each time. I haven't seen her myself. I'm not ready for that yet. But Jake keeps me updated, and I appreciate his honesty about the situation. I'll update again if there are any major developments. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on being the best mother and teacher I can be. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a long, difficult journey, but I finally feel like I'm on the right path. Update 3. It's been almost a year since this whole ordeal began, and I wanted to give you all a final update on the situation. Karen has been in treatment for the past 6 months. According to Jake, who's been in limited contact with her doctors, she's making progress, but still has a long way to go. Jake's stepfather, Robert, went through with the divorce, but he's been supportive of Karen's treatment, which I think speaks volumes about his character. Jake has been visiting Karen more regularly. He often comes to my place afterward, emotionally drained but determined to maintain the relationship. Last month, he brought Sophie to see Karen for the first time since all this happened. It was a supervised visit, and Jake said it went as well as could be expected. Karen cried when she saw Sophie, apologizing over and over. Jake said it was hard to watch, but he felt it was necessary for both Karen and Sophie. As for Jake and me, we've continued to work on our relationship as co-parents. The counseling sessions have been incredibly helpful, and we've learned a lot about healthy communication and setting boundaries. We're in a much better place now than we were a year ago. However, we've decided not to pursue a romantic relationship, at least for now. While we both still care for each other deeply, we've realized that too much has happened for us to simply go back to what we had before. We're focusing on being the best parents we can be to Sophie, who's growing up so fast and bringing us joy every day. Jake has thrown himself into his work, but in a healthier way than before. He's implemented better work-life balance practices in his company and has been spending more quality time with Sophie. It's been wonderful to see him grow as a father. He often comes over for dinner, and we spend time together as a family. It's not the life I imagined, but it's becoming a new normal that I'm growing to appreciate. As for me, I've been promoted to lead teacher at my school. I'm loving the new challenges it brings, especially working with at-risk students. I've even started a mentoring program, inspired by my own experiences growing up in the pits. It's been incredibly rewarding to see these kids start to believe in themselves and their futures. I've also started dating again, taking it slow and being very cautious about who I introduce to Sophie's life. It's been refreshing to meet new people and remember that there's a whole world out there beyond the drama I've been through. Jake has been supportive, which I appreciate. We've agreed to be open with each other about our dating lives, especially when it might affect Sophie. Lily's Bakery is finally turning a profit. Jake's business advice and a small loan from his company really turned things around. She's even talking about opening a second location. It's been amazing to see her dream come to life, and I'm incredibly proud of her perseverance. Sophie is thriving. She's a happy, curious toddler who loves both her parents. Jake and I make sure to never speak negatively about each other or about Karen in front of her. We want her to form her own opinions as she grows older. She started preschool recently, and it's been a joy to watch her make friends and learn new things. Looking back, I can hardly believe everything that's happened. It's been a painful, difficult journey, but I've learned so much about myself, about resilience, and about the importance of trusting my instincts. I'm proud of how far I've come, and I'm excited about what the future holds. There are still tough days. Days when I look at Jake and Sophie together and feel a pang of what might have been. Days when I worry about Karen's influence on Sophie's life as she grows older. But overall, I feel stronger and more capable than ever before. Thank you all for your support throughout this crazy time. Your advice and kind words have meant the world to me. While this chapter of my life is closing, I'm looking forward to writing new ones. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead.